Formula One is preparing for a big change in 2026 with new rules and regulations that will affect everything, from car designs to how teams operate. These changes are meant to make the sport more exciting, fairer, and better for the environment. But they also bring challenges, especially for smaller teams that rely on partnerships with bigger ones. The engines in 2026 will be very different from what we see today. They will use a mix of electricity and sustainable fuel to power the cars. The FIA wants these engines to be just as fast as current ones, but more efficient. This means the cars will need less fuel to go the same distance, which is better for the planet. The amount of energy coming from the electric parts of the engine will be much higher. Right now, most of the power comes from the internal combustion engine. In 2026, the power will be split more evenly between the electric and combustion parts. This change could make races more strategic because drivers will need to manage their energy carefully. The fuel used in Formula One cars will also be 100% sustainable. This is a big step because it could influence how everyday cars are powered. The FIA believes that the technology developed for phone can help car companies create cleaner vehicles for everyone. One of the most exciting new features of the 2026 cars is active aerodynamics. This technology allows the car to adjust its shape depending on whether it is on a straight, depending on whether it is on a corner. By reducing drag on straights, the cars can go faster. In corners, the aerodynamics will provide more grip, making it easier to turn at high speeds. Drivers will also have more tools to help them overtake other cars. A new system will let them use extra power from the car's battery when they get close to another car. This could make overtaking more frequent and exciting, something fans have been asking for. The cars will be lighter in 2026, which is an important change. Right now, Formula One cars are heavier than they have ever been. A lighter car is quicker and easier to handle, especially on tracks with a lot of corners. Reducing the weight by 30 kilograms will make a big difference. For teams like Visa Cash App RB, the new rules could be a big problem. They currently use parts made by Red Bull, such as the gearbox and suspension. This helps them save money and be competitive. But the new rules might stop teams from doing this if they perform too well. If a team finishes fifth or better in the standings, they will have to start making these parts themselves after 3 years. This rule is aimed at making the competition fairer. Teams like McLaren and Williams have argued that customer teams, which buy parts from bigger teams, have an unfair advantage. They believe that every team should design and build its own parts to keep the competition equal. The rules about customer teams are also tied to a bigger goal: reducing the influence of larger teams on smaller ones. Currently, partnerships between big and small teams often involve more than just sharing parts. Engineers, data, and even racing strategies can overlap. The new rules aim to limit this kind of cooperation, to ensure smaller teams compete on their own merits. The use of non-listed parts is another point of discussion. These are parts that teams are allowed to buy rather than make themselves. Under the new rules, teams in the top 5 will have to design and manufacture these parts within 3 years. This includes complex components like gearboxes and suspensions, which required significant resources to develop. A key challenge with the new rules is the timeline for implementation. Smaller teams might struggle to set up the infrastructure needed to produce parts independently in just 3 years. This could put them at a disadvantage, especially if they are already operating with smaller budgets and fewer staff than their competitors. One question raised by critics is whether the rules will truly make racing fairer or simply widen the gap between the top teams and the rest. Larger teams have the resources to comply with the new regulations quickly, while smaller teams may face setbacks that prevent them from competing effectively. There are also concerns about how the changes might affect costs. Building parts in-house is often more expensive than buying them from a partner. For smaller teams, this could mean reallocating funds from other areas, such as car development or hiring skilled drivers. This trade-off could impact their overall performance. These changes could also impact the driver market. Smaller teams that struggle to compete under the new rules might focus on hiring experienced drivers who can compensate for a car's weaknesses. This could reduce opportunities for younger drivers to break into the sport, which has traditionally been a key aspect of Formula One. Not everyone agrees with this idea. Haas team boss Ayao Komatsu says that smaller teams need to buy parts to stay competitive. He argues that fans don't care where a car's parts come from as long as the racing is exciting. Komatsu also believes that stopping smaller teams from buying parts could make it harder for them to survive in Formula One. The FIA says these changes are necessary to ensure the long-term health of the sport. They want to create a balance where all teams have a chance to compete, but without making it too easy for smaller teams to rely on partnerships with bigger ones. The new rules could also affect how teams spend their money. Right now, there is a cost cap that limits how much a team can spend in a season. In 2026, this cap will still be in place, but teams will have more flexibility in some areas. For example, they might be allowed to spend more on new technology. One of the goals of the 2026 changes is to make racing closer and more exciting. Right now, when one car gets close to another, it often loses speed because of the dirty air coming off the car in front. The new designs will reduce this problem, allowing cars to follow each other more closely. The changes could also make Formula One safer. The FIA is always looking for ways to protect drivers, and the 2026 cars will include stronger materials and better designs to keep them safe during crashes. Safety is always a top priority in motorsport. Another interesting part of the 2026 regulations is how they encourage innovation. The FIA wants teams to come up with new ideas that can make their cars faster and more efficient. This is one of the reasons Formula One is considered the pinnacle of motorsport. Some teams are already preparing for the changes. Visa Cash App RB, for example, has built a facility near Red Bull's factory to work more closely with them. This partnership has helped them improve, but the new rules could force them to operate more independently. What do you think about all these changes? Are you excited about the 2026 season, or do you think these rules will create more problems than solutions? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on everything Formula One.